Welcome to the video. Now, before we dive into this, I'm just going to tee this up just a little bit. For some reason, the camera struggle has been real. I've had a hard time just getting lighting right or trying to find the good audio, and so it may be a little bit distracting, but if you can get past that, the content's actually going to be pretty good. If you can't, you may want to skip this one. Check it out. All right, man, I want to talk to you today about this idea that men really should not be concerned about trying to look younger. And I know that that's probably not something that you actively think about. It's like, well, yeah, I want to look younger. At least not until you get to a certain point. But I think that a lot of times, especially older men, do fall victim of this because they get help or they get advice from their wives or from other people. And it really, the problem with this idea of men trying to look younger is primarily it's a conflation of goals. You're confusing the goals between what men want and what women want. Now, before we dive any deeper into this video is going to be politically incorrect. So if you've got a problem with that stuff, you might as well just skip it. Otherwise, there's some kind of interesting ways to look at this, and so it's worth talking about. So if you think about it this way, historically, men and women have peaked at different age levels. Primarily as far as the way that men are attracted to women, there are two things that we look at. We look at age and we look at fertility, which is also obviously very much tied to age. And so that's where you get things like this idea of the wall. Women hit the wall at 30. Or you've got women who peak usually somewhere around the age of like 24, 25 when it comes to those things of beauty and those physical manifestations of fertility. So it stands to reason that as women get older, their primary aesthetic directive or their MO when it comes to their appearance is to try to look younger. They want to try to give the impression that they're as close to that peak. It's the peak's up here and they may be all the way down here, but they want to look like they're as far up towards the top of the peak as they possibly can be. And that makes sense. And that's why so much of women's beauty and women's clothing and plastic surgery and all these other things that are catered towards women are all focused on this idea of wanting women to look younger and helping them to look younger. The problem with that same approach to men is that, one, our peak comes at a later time, and two, youth for us is actually kind of a liability, because while the primary thing that men are attracted to in women is age and fertility, the primary thing that women are attracted to in men is dominance, power, charisma, sociability. It's all these things that we don't get until later on in our lives. And sure, when you're 16 and you're dominant within your group of friends and you're able to have charisma, yeah, those things matter, but as far as like society in general, especially Western society, it doesn't see a whole lot of value in men, at least real value. There's a lot of potential value in guys that are young guys, but we don't hit our peak until we're more like 35, 36, 37. And so for us to try to look like we're younger not only confuses these things, and it can kind of look a little bit effeminate. It makes it very obvious that your wife is trying to dress you, but it also actually makes you look like you haven't reached your peak yet, or you don't understand where your value is. It always looks foolish to me when I see a man who thinks that his value is in his youth, or his value is in looking younger than he actually is. Now, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't take care of yourself. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't be worried about taking care of your skin, or that you shouldn't be taking care of your body and you should just be saying, well, I'm gonna get old, and old guys get fat and they get wrinkly and their face turns into a mess. I'm not saying that at all. There's a way to age gracefully, and there's a way to do it that implies kind of that you're impervious to the weathering of the elements. And dressing well, staying in shape, taking care of your skin and your grooming, those are all things that contribute to that. But you still want to do it in a way where you capitalize on and you take advantage of your age. Someone who, whether you like him or not, I think he's a really good example of it, is Mitt Romney. Romney is kind of the ideal when it comes to, at least for me, because I'm a white guy, even more so because I'm Mormon, but Romney is kind of the ideal when it comes to successful white man who has aged well. Like, he's got, the silver wings in his hair and his chin is still good. The guy, he just looks good. And he doesn't try to dress or try to present himself like he still thinks he's 18. You know, he's not doing this whole like Steve Buscemi, you know, hello fellow kids thing.
How do you do, fellow kids?
Because we get that, like we laugh at that meme, we laugh at that joke because we understand that guys trying to look like their kids, or men trying to hold on to their teenage years or their college years, it doesn't work for us, because again, that's not where our value comes. And so I would tell you, if you're worried about that, if you're aging, or if you're starting to see signs of aging, don't sweat it. Because age is not the enemy for you as a man like it is for the women in your life. Is that fair? No. Is it sexist? Yeah, probably, but that's the reality of it. You don't have to worry about age hurting your aesthetics as much as a woman your same age does. And if you're a younger guy, then you may even want to get to the point where you're trying to look a little bit older. Because you know what? I'll tell you what, this beard, I've had this thing since 2007, because if I don't have it, this is what I look like.
Here you can see the blank wall where the banner used to be. You can also tell that they're missing one of the metal letters in front of this front wall.
Right? Nobody's gonna trust this little baby-faced punk, especially when I'm trying to convey credibility and authority. And so if you're younger, or if you have baby-faced features like I do, then you're actually better trying to aesthetically age yourself a little bit so that you look more like you're within that peak range of like mid-30s to mid-40s, of where you've got your career squared away, you've got your love life squared away, you've got your own sense of who you are, all of that squared away. So that's the kind of age that you ideally want to strive for. Now again, you know, if you're 80, you don't want to try to look like you think you're 45 because the contrast is too strong. Same thing if you're 14, you don't want to try to look like you're 45. But you may want to up it a notch or drop it a notch, because you're always trying to get back to this age of when men, primarily when we hit our peak. So don't worry too much about aging, especially the way that women worry about aging. Change the mindset on that, embrace it, embrace the authority, embrace the accomplishment, and embrace the power that come with that, and then visually use that to your advantage. As always, I hope you guys liked the video. I would love to hear your comments on this subject below, so please feel free to leave those. Give me a thumbs up, and I'll talk to you next time.